This is the story of determination, ambition, and discovery. A story about developing resilience, personal understanding, and choosing to be courageous. This is the story of a girl who was terrified of the very adventure she longed for, and how she decided to face that fear. It meant leaving the manor, the fairy forest, and everything that's cozy and familiar behind. It meant learning how to find iron, to resource her own food, and to learn how to be her own champion. At night, she would leave the manor and head out to the open plains, looking for a fight and knowing exactly where to find one. She taught herself to run fearlessly into battle, gauge her enemy, look for weaknesses. She taught herself to melee and discovered her own style. She exposed herself to new and unfamiliar environments, knowing that her weakest skills were in early game survival. And she brushed up on some of her older skills, hoping it would help her resource herself well for the dangerous days to come. This is her story. This is her fairy tale adventure. This is Last Life for Fans. Hey guys, and welcome to my Last Life video. I'm recording from the fairy forest because I realized I forgot to do a proper introduction on Saturday, and I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of the rules in case you're not familiar with the game. Anybody who plays is given between 2 and 5 lives, randomly rolled. 4 and 5 are dark green, 3 lives are light green, 2 lives are yellow, and if you're on your last life, if you turn red, you have to become hostile to everybody, and you are friends off with anybody that you might have partnered up with earlier in the game. Yeah, and it's like just a last man standing kind of a scenario. Also, I have a confession to make, and I'm very, very sorry. I was so flustered on Saturday when I went to go play that first session that I entirely forgot to hit record. Now, please don't worry. I figured out replay mod. I have it working this time, so I do have a highlight reel for you. And I promise I'll do better next time. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy. Our story begins with about 20 survivalists eager to start our adventure. I was excited. I had rolled 5 lives and was feeling good about my chances. With my day 1 survival checklist already in mind, I headed out to look for iron, food, and with the intent to stay underground overnight. I wish I had more footage of this part to show you. I was pretty proud of myself. I used doors to create air pockets in a waterlogged cave, allowing me to mine without drowning. This expedition was disappointing, though. I came away from that trip with dripstone, a stack of gravel to make flint from at a future date, and one single iron. And now I needed food. So I came back up to the surface to hunt for fish, or maybe catch a chicken. By this time it was raining, and I hate Minecraft rain. I came down here to the water and I started whacking at fish with my sword, and when I finally paused to take a break, it was dark enough to have spawned monsters. And it was here, on this bank, that I lost my first life to a skeleton. Between the mad scramble to try and pick up my stuff before it despawned, which I didn't manage to do, and the oppressive Minecraft rain, I wasn't thinking clearly, and I was desperate to get food, so I sat here and tried to punch fish, drowning twice. I was pretty frustrated with myself at this point. I think I even typed something into chat like, "Fine, I'll just sit in a hole for the night." I was definitely sulking. Before long, though, one of the other players, Zar, came to my rescue. You'll see them coming on the left. They actually ended up deciding to create a bit of a refugee camp here by spawn. You see, I wasn't the only one dying. In this first half hour of gameplay, there had already been 10 deaths. And so this is when the mods decided to call us all back to spawn. They wanted to know if we were interested in a little bit of a restart. We already had 2 red lives, and they wanted to make sure everybody actually got a chance to play. One of those red lives you might recognize. It's Asterleaves, my soulmate from last season. After some discussion and a vote, we all agreed that Asterleaves and Yola should each be given a life to go back up to yellow, and then we would just continue from there. With Zar's help, I managed to get armored up and get some food, and we began exploring together. And we ended up spending the night in somebody's base with a whole bunch of other people, none of whom knew whose base it was, although we decorated it for them. And when morning arrived, Zara and I took off on our own to keep exploring. We found this really interesting cave formation, and I'm afraid my explorer side got the better of me, and I ran on ahead without any torches or being cautious or watching for mobs or anything. Yeah. Oh, and I completely forgot to use my shield. I was really disappointed at this point. This was not what I had wanted. I let Zar know that I was back at the refugee camp and made some joke about just living there permanently now. And that's when I was contacted by the mods, offering me a little bit of a do-over, seeing as Asterleaves and Yola got one. And honestly, I felt torn. I didn't feel as though I deserved it, and it turned into a long conversation. Eventually, Zar got there and very kindly brought me my stuff, even though we were technically, officially supposed to be enemies now. And I told them about the conversation I was having with the mods. And they decided to stick around while that got sorted out. And honestly, I'm glad. The mods and I eventually settled on putting me back up to yellow. It was honestly super generous of them, and I'm really grateful because Zara and I were finally able to start on some of the plans that we'd made and we were excited about. And now I get to show you. First of all, we discovered that we both love medieval fantasy type stuff, so a castle was definitely the first order of business, or at least the beginning of one. We also talked about strengths and weaknesses, and while I'm apparently quite terrible at not dying, I was able to offer my skills at building mob grinders and redstone traps and hopefully keep us equipped with TNT at least. This was about the time where we had our first boogeyman kill. I completely forgot to mention it earlier, but the boogeyman curse is rolled each session, and it was rolled just before I was killed by that skeleton way at the beginning. We knew there'd been a boogeyman kill because Salt showed up at spawn, the victim. If you're picked as boogeyman that session, you have to kill somebody before the end of that session, or you end up being dropped down to your red life. I spent the most of the rest of that session being safe. Either I was inside, trying to collect flint for arrows, or I was outside, cutting down trees and tweaking our base. Zar went off adventuring to find the deep dark and, hopefully, come back with some diamonds. We accidentally ended up with a direct highway to the deep dark in our basement, which meant we often had folks wandering through. And I think my favorite thing about setting up close to spawn is that we actually end up interacting with a lot of different people. Once Zar got back, they came straight outside to find me. They were so excited to show me their loot. Most notable were a potion of fire resistance that we could use as a bargaining chip, a swift sneak book, and 2 enchanted golden apples. Oh yeah, and a bunch of diamonds. We wrapped up the session feeling much more positive. We had dubbed ourselves Knights of the Realm, had the beginnings of our castle, and had plans for next session. This was fun.